Hello everyone, and welcome to the Leading Spas of Canada Town Hall webinar. A few housekeeping items to mention before we get started with today's webinar. All attendees are on mute. If you have a question for me or today's webinar speakers, please send it through the questions section on your GoToWebinar dashboard, or you can use the raise your hand feature to ask your question verbally. You can access the question chat box by clicking on the plus sign next to the question header on the dashboard. To access the raise your hand feature, click on the hand icon that is also located on the left side of your GoToWebinar dashboard. We will then unmute your line and you will be able to ask your question verbally. We encourage all attendees to participate during the webinar, and we would love to hear your questions and stories of success during these difficult times. A number of you have also sent in questions before the webinar, and these will be answered at the end of the presentation during the question and answer session. I would now like to introduce our panelists, Elena Zinchenko, Kathryn Gallagher, and Celine Tadrissi. Elena has started in the industry with a diploma of cosmetology, aesthetics from the Community College of Kiev, having previously graduated from the University of Kiev with a master's in civil engineering. In 2006, she became the spa director of 10 Spa and continued her education, receiving a CID SCO International Diploma of Cosmetology, as well as an Oncology Aesthetics certification. Elena is a creator and business director of Face Spa and Skincare Dispensary in Winnipeg. In addition to her business endeavors, Elena currently is a member of the Manitoba Apprenticeship and Certification Advisory Board. Kathryn is currently a full-time professor in the School of Fashion at Seneca College. She has over 30 years of experience in both business operations and sales service in the spa industry, including time as a spa manager and consultant. Kathryn also recently wrote a paper reporting on the current practice standards and policies of aestheticians, which was published in the Rutledge Handbook of Health Tourism. Celine is currently the spa director of Hammam Spa. As a visionary leader, Celine has grown Hammam Spa to an award-winning day spa with 2 locations in Toronto. Her success has stemmed from her extensive business background and chameleon-esque approach to business. Celine had started her career at the Mississauga Board of Trade. She currently holds both business and economics degrees from the University of Toronto, which provides a strong foundation for all aspects of the spa business, from building a successful business plan to human resource management. Without further delay, let us begin. Elena, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, there's like a lot of people.
Hear me?
Yes, Elena, please go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. For some reason, I don't have a visual, and I see beautiful Celine and Kathryn here on my screen. So I put my lipstick this morning too, so just so you know. I'd like to welcome everybody, and I'd like to say we're all in the same boat, and we're all learning every day with the all new information that we're being bombarded. I feel 2 last months been more than 2 years, probably, with all the events and all the changes and all the new policies and procedures that being revamped and changed every day. So I'm going to be learning today the same way as everyone else, and I hope to hear something new, something that I can use for my operations. And I'd like to everybody to ask as many questions as they can, and we'll try to answer them as much as we can. So AJ, I think we can start with our agenda.
Yes, Elena. Being the president of the Leading Spas of Canada, would you like to start us off with your topic, please?
I am not a professional marketer or have educational in marketing, but I believe over the last 15 years, as the marketing was changing as well, with the new technologies and the new options and tools for us, I've been learning, and I think what I'm doing for my businesses and for our operations, I have to say it's been working, and especially it shows in these difficult times, because we never lost connection with our spa goers. I've been lucky, and we built pretty successful business. 10 Spa has a very, very, very large database, and we do volume, which means despite all the experience and everything that our customers are getting in the beautiful services and all of that, but our business is built on volume. We do minimum 3,000 appointments per month. We do 4,000 appointments in December, and we do $1 million in gift card sales, and our revenue is very high. So definitely to lose all that in one day was very difficult, but because of our large database and large followers, customer followers, it allowed us to create a great response structure, meaning we, over the years, became an important part of life for a lot of people. And as you all know, it's hard to find the best hairdresser, it's hard to find the best skincare specialist, it's hard to find the best girl who does your nails. So we became the place for a lot of local people, where they found all those best people for their needs, anything from massage therapy and all the way to the nails. So we wanted to maintain this connection with our customers on the personal level, and not necessarily on the retail or on. We didn't want to try. I didn't want to try to push anything on my customers, and especially I didn't want to be any negative with any of the information that we were giving during this time to our social media. The only communication tool right now is obviously social media. We try not to send newsletters, and I find that a lot of companies, especially now, bombarding with newsletters, and my inbox flows out every single day with old information, and I find that information is very repetitive. It almost looks like a lot of companies are pretty much copying each other topics and just adding some personal notes to it, but and it becomes very ineffective. So as a customer, as a consumer myself, I don't even look at the most of the information, because I know I'm going to read something that I've already read. So what my suggestion always when it comes to marketing or presentation of your brand, and it's something that I'm sure you heard before, be original. And original means you have to stick to your brand, to your core value. And I'm hoping every spa or every salon, every small or big, regardless, have their own core value message and belief, and their signature treatment. It could be treatment, it could be their philosophy or their style, and they stick to it. I find also a lot of companies jumping from one thing to another thing. They're doing a lot of specials, or they're trying to grab attention of clients, and it becomes so overwhelming. So eventually the clients lose interest, because it's too hard for them to process. So staying true to your brand and staying consistent with what you're delivering, with your message, with the look of your Instagram. I welcome everybody to look at my Instagram, which is the 10 Spa Instagram, or Facebook, 10 Spa Facebook, as well as Facebar Instagram and Facebook. But you'll see it's very different looks. So with 10 Spa, we present more of a high-end feel, because we do offer very high-end products, very high-end experience, from the towels to amenities, to all our treatments. And the face bar, completely opposite concept when we condense our services and treatments in a short period of time, but it's still very, very, very effective. But it's a different price point, not because it's cheap, because we are taking away all the extra amenities and extra valuable experience sort of tools that customer likes at 10 Spa. So, so the marketing is very different, but it's still very original to both concepts. So I'd like to also hear from anybody who wants to say something, if they're struggling with anything, or if they have any problems with the connecting with the clients. Another very important tool is the online store. Our industry is a big retailer, and unfortunately not many salons and spas retail, because it's hard. Retail is hard, and it's you have to have a personality for it. You need to know what to say. You need to know how to get your customer coming back and buy the same products, but it's all based on the quality of the products. Our goal was always to have exclusive lines, so we've managed to have a exclusivity with several skincare lines, and I do have a number of products, not just one skincare line or two, but a number of them that allows us to really customize for each individual person. So online store became the only tool right now we maintain our business. We do quite a bit of online sales, and we do the sales across the country. We retail from anywhere from Quebec all the way to Vancouver, and we ship the product. What we did for our local people, we're offering free touchless deliveries, and myself and my daughter has been driving all the deliveries around the city, and we're doing that just because I want to do something for the community as well. We also supporting local hospitals, because let's face it, all of us have inventory of products. We all have products sitting in our shelves that were purchased before the pandemic hit us, and the expiry dates are going as the calendar flips every day. So what we did, I deliver gallons of professional products, specific products for nurses in our local hospitals through their nursing managers, so not directly to the nurses, but to their office. So they actually use it in their staff rooms, which is very, very appreciated. So that's the little thing that we did for the community as well. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them and hear from you.
Excellent. Thank you, Elena. Opening the floor to our attendees, as well as our other panelists. If you have any comments, questions, or stories of success that have worked for you in your business in this area, please use the raise your hand feature or the question feature now. You can also ask later as the presentation goes. Do we have any questions from anyone? It looks like everyone's processing what you've said, Elena, so yeah. Thank you so much for that input.
AJ, I'm sorry, I just wanted to mention something. I actually wanted to start this with, but I wanted just to say hi. I know she wrote with us today too, Alicia, who's our board member in Fort McMurray, and she's dealing with a very, very difficult situation, worse than anyone here today. Never mind the COVID, but she's dealing with flood, and this is the second time in her career, and in her career she's dealing with this. So I'm just sending her our support, and I wish we can do something, but just want to acknowledge that.
An excellent point, Elena, and thank you so much. And I'm sure that heartfelt thoughts come from all of us in this industry right now. Kathryn, I would like to hand over to you now to cover your topics on education, please.
Okay, I think you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I was hoping that I would be able to see if there was any chats coming through, because I know that I have some people that I've been speaking with that I believe are attending today. So hello to everybody, and I hope you're all keeping well. So what are we in? We're in week 8. This is almost 2 months that we have been dealing with this COVID crisis. I thought that from the education perspective that I would just touch on some of the there's surveys and statistics that are occurring. I'm getting them through on my end, and I thought I would touch on some of those things, and maybe that can lend some assistance to everyone on the call. Of course, as I'm going through some of these things, I would love to hear any additional points that people want to make, because really this is like a collaboration. So what I would like to do is, first of all, from the education perspective, I mean, there was a survey that came through, and I just want to share it with you through iSpa, and it is a consumer snapshot. So I don't know how many of you out there have a membership with iSpa. So I just wanted to take this particular snapshot that had come through. It's a survey of consumers, people who are considered both spa goers and non-spa goers. The spa goers are people that have visited a spa in the last 12 months, and the non-spa goers, of course, have been longer than that. And so I was going through this snapshot, and I thought that there were some encouraging numbers there. And so one of the ones that I just took a snapshot of the snapshot to share with all of you is this one in particular. The question was asking, how have your buying behaviors for the following products changed during the current crises? And I thought what was encouraging was the percentage in the middle. I haven't changed my behaviors. So, with things like the various products that we sell, they're still wanting those products. So, as Elena was saying, from the retail end of things, I see this as an opportunity. Our clients still want these types of items. So yes, there has been a drop. I'm buying less than usual, but perhaps that's just telling us that they don't have access to our facilities to get them. So Elena's been driving around with her daughter, delivering products, and perhaps along the same thread of restaurants doing curbside pickup. Perhaps we can be looking at something similar. If someone isn't doing it already, this is what we would like to hear.
Sorry, Kathryn, I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second. We have had raise your hand.
Yes.
Wendy, your mic is now live. Please go ahead.
So what I'm wondering, first of all, I have done curbside selling. It's gone over quite well. I send out a text to people, and it's being received quite well, and I'm actually doing something for Mother's Day, so it does work. My main question is if anybody on the call has received any reopening guidelines from their public health department or provincial guidelines. In Ontario, we still haven't been told anything. They are still not available. And as we all know, in Ontario, it is a public health department, but they also have not let anything out. And before we all spend a ton of money on one thing, we need to make sure that we're actually spending our money properly in the right areas. So just wondered if anybody had any feedback on that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Wendy. One of the things I'm going to touch on in just what I'm sharing in terms of slides is, that spas obviously are going to have to change their standard operating procedures to adjust to this. But how do we adjust it according to our public officials and what they will require of us? We don't want to go down the same path that other industries have had, where they were notified on Friday that they were allowed to open, and then Monday, was when they were able to do that. And so many of them couldn't. They weren't ready. Does that lend to the same thing that you're talking about?
Absolutely, because we have made probably 50 changes already to what we're going to be doing, literally. But without any type of guidelines, are you making the right one? Have we missed something? Basically, if anybody has any information from provincial and everything, it'd be great to get posted just so you could use it as an extra guideline.
Yeah, and I think Elena will have something to lend to that because she's in Winnipeg.
Go ahead, Elena.
Yes, as you all know, Manitoba is in the somewhat better position. Actually, I would say much better position. I don't know how we manage this. I think because we all hibernate here in Manitoba, and we pretty much don't go anywhere normally. So this is for us, and nobody comes here too. So that's why it's a little maybe easier. But so we open our hair salons, and I'm on the advisory committee for local MLA for all the opening procedures. So I've been called in for the emergency meeting to roll out all the steps and rules. So what we are doing, we opened hair salons, and as of June 1st, we're opening nail salons and spas. Our next phase, which there's no date yet, but spas means spas that have amenities, meaning steam rooms, meaning whirlpools, and so that's what we calling spas. So what we're planning here, and I hear exactly what you're saying about policies and procedures. Every company, every association is sending you all the guidelines, and I know it's really hard to navigate, but you need to adapt your particular operations to the new procedure. The rule number one is PPE, protective equipment, and the rule number two, dilute your volume if you do have normally big volume. And there's a different clever ways of doing that. So I've decided not to open a spa yet, even though I could open it with massages only, but I've decided not to because our spa is, again, like I said, is an experience place, space with everything else in it. So what I did, we opened our booking lines as of June 1st, when we will be able to hopefully, and again, it's tentative because all this little opening that's happening in Manitoba will show how well we can maintain our numbers. In the next 2 weeks, we'll know for sure. And if we are opening June 1st, if everything goes well, I'm opening most of my spa services and operations, but in a limited basis in terms of guiding and directing traffic, in maintaining physical distance by controlling my bookings. So we're ready. Everything we're doing in the spa, and we've been doing it for years from the beginning, we're already up to new codes and new procedures. We've always been using hospital-grade sanitization. We've always been using hospital-grade autoclave. So all of our tools going to autoclave, same one that the dentists are using. So we already have all those procedures in place. We're going to reinforce everything. And we're introducing PPE for our staff, for our therapists. For clients in Manitoba, it's optional. It's not necessary, but it will be available for them if they like to. I'm moving most of my front desk operations to digital. So I'm pretty much eliminating front desk, and everything's going to happen on back of the house and behind the scene, no cash. And all the retail, it will be happening also sort of online, but during the treatments, while they're in the treatment room with the therapist. What we do in TenSpa, we do waterless pedicures. We actually don't soak the feet. We call it the foot facial, so we don't have an issue of whirlpools again, or tabs, or any of that. So if anybody wants to know more, I will be more than happy to show you in details later on how we do it, and it works incredible. The amount of pedicures we do, and we charge $100 for pedicure, and people pay for it because it's a very different experience, and it's super sanitary experience. So there's a lot of it sounds like it's very hard, but if you look at your operations, I'm sure all of you are already doing a lot of things that's already by the new code. You just have to figure out how to control your traffic. That would be the main issue.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Elena. Paulina, your line's open. You had a point to make. Paulina?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I did not have a question at this time. I was just answering from British Columbia perspective. We have our public health order in place until May the 30th. And at this point, I wouldn't say I don't feel that it's going to be lifted. I think it'll probably be extended at that time. I'm not sure if anybody else has any other information that maybe clarifies that point.
Excellent. Thank you, Paulina. It's always good to hear, the statuses in different provinces around the country. So we appreciate hearing what's going on in BC. Thank you.
I would love to hear from anyone from other provinces as well. I mean, we can just wait for that. If there's any input that we can get from other provinces, just to get a feel for what's happening across Canada, would be fantastic. So if those questions come in, that's great. What I'll just continue on with is somewhat along the lines of what Elena is talking about, which is fantastic. I mean, she's talking real actionable items that they're taking right now, which I think could be very helpful to all of us that are waiting for some of these restrictions to be lifted. So one of the other questions I thought was interesting that I would just add to this was the question of, once the coronavirus pandemic ends, okay, that might be, but when we're sort of post-pandemic, do you expect to spend more, less, or the same amount on? And so there was, various areas that were listed there. And again, I still think that the percentage there, visiting a spa at 47%, that right there, I think is a good message for all of us. You have very nervous at 25% and then a little nervous at 47%. So, as we're going through these, the process of changing our, standards, our policy and procedures, we want to maybe keep that in mind in terms of the sensitivity to our clients. So basically, just a few things that I have come across, and of course I encourage everybody to add to this. Know that clients will be nervous about high touch and close proximity. That we will have to change the standard operating procedures. And so, when it comes to hygiene and safety, as Elena was talking about, our industry has already been practicing high levels. At least I would like to attest to that with our members. But when I was on a call with the Global Wellness Summit, and there were people from all over the world there, the message there was that in terms of the hygiene and safety, it's got to become medical grade now. It has to be absolutely, it's going to be enormous just in terms of what people will need to see. So we have to be able to message that just in terms of being able to let our clients know through marketing, as Elena was talking about. Also for, when we're talking about a plan, we should be looking at both short-term and long-term. So when some of those restrictions are lifted, and I think it was Paulina who mentioned about the possibility of BC opening the end of May, but we don't know. But planning for it is what we're doing. So plan for the short term. And Elena, you actually already mentioned about going paperless with software programs. So getting in touch with whoever your software, your spa program software provider is, and find out what they're working on, because they should be working on something to allow us to not have to print. Even client questionnaire forms, that all of those things now could become digital. Another thing that came up was new treatment menus to start. So it may have to be that we are looking at revised treatment menus and focus on, and it may mean surveying your customer base, find out what they want most, rather than perhaps the entire menu being sort of back on. And so I just put in brackets manicures and pedicures, because maybe that's what people, I don't know about you, but I could do with a pedicure right now. So, what are clients really, really wanting right now? And it's possible, and Wendy, who's on the call, she talked about putting liners in the manicure bowls and the pedicure basins. So, various methods that perhaps we can find ways to share with one another in terms of what we could do to, again, make that, uber safe environment that we want to create for our clients.
Just on that,
so
Kathryn,
yeah, on that.
Wendy
yes?
has another point. Wendy, you're live. Wendy,
yeah,
you're live.
Kathryn, you were mentioning that 47% of the people. Okay, 40. So I understand that people are still going to spend their money in spas, and in fact, I think it will be higher than 47%, because people will not be allowed to travel. That will go on for a long period of time. I would imagine that it will be a good 18 months until a vaccine comes in. People will not be traveling, because the other governments are not going to let you into their country. So they have to spend their money somewhere. They're going to have some discretionary money, and they want to feel good. So I think that will actually push people into the spa. And if you start to do spa days, spa-cations opposed to staycations, in lieu with, you could even go to some of your local restaurant. When this all settles down a little bit, at least when we're allowed to open, and say, listen, we can put something up where you can have a spa day and you can get a coupon at your local restaurant included in that day for a delivery of food. So there's definitely, it's not all bad.
Yeah, no, that's,
as far as disposable things, we actually use disposable nail polish brushes.
You're cutting out a bit. Yeah, no. Some of the things that you were recommending, or at least that you're planning to implement, are fantastic. So the disposable nail polish brushes, I thought that was great. I didn't even know those existed. But yeah, in terms of how people are going to spend their money once they are out of this, or at least released, in terms of this survey, the top one was visiting family and friends. The second one was, being able to go back to restaurants. Social type activities. So you are bang on with the marketing in terms of, if anything, you can, partner with a restaurant and somehow do some sort of marketing incentive that way. So that is a very good point. Yeah. And by the way, these stats are coming out of the US. We don't have a survey that's been circulated out of Canada. Many of the statistics that we have seen, though, in the past do reflect what the US is doing. So, yeah, and then also the last point there was to think about your demographics. What I've heard is that there's a possibility that we might have a harder time getting older people back into the spas versus the younger people, which, this virus hasn't hit as much. And so they might feel a little bit more confident with coming back into spas. So people over age 45, you know, might be a little bit more concerned, a little bit more nervous versus the younger people. So in terms of marketing and what you have on your, I mean, I think it's really good to reach out to your client base and survey them. So as a result of this, you know, just the final points is re-emphasizing the value of professional treatments, because now people have gotten used to doing some DIY stuff, doing their own, you know, because we've been sharing that information just to stay connected with our clients. So we may have to, you know, marketing focus on the difference between doing stuff at home and being able to do it in a spa. You know, that spa experience, as Elena was alluding to, just how beautiful it is, and people pay for that. I'm a big believer it's all about the experience. But now we need to, you know, emphasize on reducing any element of worry. And then, you know, emphasize the professional quality of services versus doing it on their own. And then the last piece here is pretty much the same. Just what measures in terms of marketing, what are you doing to protect guests? So being able to create that messaging out, what a socially distanced spa will be like. So, you know, it's going to involve obviously our spacing. And Elena, I like that idea that you're booking now. You've chosen not to reopen, but you've opened your booking so that, you know, that those ratios could actually be better come July 1st. And yeah, just in terms of consumer expectations, that'll help to drive what kind of decision making we're making for our spas. So I think that was all I had to ask. Oh, and yeah, you know, perhaps if you offer nutrition or any element of nutrition on your menus or in your spa, you may want to be looking at that just in terms of people and immunity. It's, you know, the Global Wellness Summit is all about prevention now. It's people wanting to not get sick. So I think that that's going to be magnified. People with mental health issues and sleep issues. You know, spas have, you know, crossed over into that domain. And so if you are or have something to offer in that respect, that would be fantastic. So that pretty much wraps up. I mean, just in terms of standard operating procedures, I do teach that in spa business operations at the college. And, you know, there's a number of steps that are taken. So, but I'm assuming that everybody has SOPs in place. But I'm more than happy to talk to anybody who's looking at specific protocols.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kathryn, for your input. I think a number of people have got some very good information out of that, and we had some really good questions and discussion points come out as well. So I must thank you for your input there. Celine, would you like to start your topics now, please?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I unfortunately, I don't have as a professional screen presentation as Kathryn, but I just wanted to go through some of the things that we're working on. So, you know, it's a really challenging time for everyone in this industry with a complete lack of direction and information. So there are, you know, every province differs. And even every, you know, municipality differs in terms of health regulating bodies, and there's no standard guideline right now. So we're really, you know, having to wait and look for best practices. So from an operational perspective, that I was going to go over. You know, what we've been doing, I went from, you know, we were renovating one of our locations, and at our new location, I laid off in March almost 80 staff members, which you know is a really difficult thing to do from being at that volume of operations to suddenly completely shutting down, and with the lack of direction, you know, I don't think any of us were sure on how long this closure was going to be. So we maintained our management staff working from home to keep this communication with our clientele and reschedule and rebook clients. And I think like a lot of places, we've gone to, like, I think we're on our third round of pushing back when we're scheduling for. So, you know, in Ontario, there really isn't much direction as to when the opening date and plan is going to be. But right now we're pushing back all appointments to June. And you also have to consider things like the fact in Ontario, for our registered massage therapists, they are, you know, a regulated professional that is mandated by the college, and they have been advised not to work. So I also have to kind of be aware and in touch of when their regulating body is going to allow them to come back to work. So it's a process. I just have kind of a Word document here on some things. One thing that, you know, I've spent a lot of time looking into with our staff, and I'm sure all of us have this information, is on the Canada Revenue Agency wage subsidy. So that is an excellent resource for spa owners and directors to have as a support and backup. And I know for myself, with keeping a few of our core management staff to just help with, you know, we still are doing online sales, we're doing complimentary shipping for gift certificate packages and for product, but also when kind of pre-planning whatever steps we can to know that there's that subsidy for what staff we bring back. So that I'm sure that you know, we've all been aware of the subsidy and how it's working. We successfully submitted for that this week, and you know, it was kind of a learning experience because there's two portions of it. There's the 75% wage subsidy that covers up to $54,000 per individual with a cap of $800 a week earnings. So for, you know, a few possible managers, it might reach the cap. And then there's an additional 10% subsidy that gets applied to any payroll taxes. So that's another addition on top of that. So that has been a consideration for me in the back of my head with planning for reopening, and assuming that when we are reopened, that we'll have to kind of do it at what Elena was saying, a smaller capacity. We won't be able to have the same volume of people in the spot at the same time. So, you know, for an employer considering how many people I want to, or I'm able to call back to return to work, knowing that, you know, maybe if they're not booked at 100% of their schedule or working the same schedule that they were before, at least there's that compensation, so I don't have staff for that long being put in a bad position of not being able to come back to work. So that to me is an important thing for everyone to consider, and it's available information that has been released from Canada Revenue Agency that can be used in planning, because with regards to changing operating procedures, and that's something that I have this here, that's a working document that we are always, you know, between me and my management staff going through, like, just this is our standard operating procedures. We're constantly revisiting that and looking at what needs to be tweaked. But you know, one thing I will mention is I just had this call yesterday with some of my staff members. There's no point in spending time and resources right now to set an exact opening procedure when, you know, for me being in Ontario, there hasn't been any direction from the province in terms of what would need to be changed for spas. Definitely, I think we all know that without a doubt, when there is a reopening, what will be very important and under scrutiny from staff and clients, and hopefully the health department, is what our internal process is for sanitization and sterilization. For me and for any members of the Spa Association who have gone through the quality assurance program, which is a very important program and hopefully will become highlighted in the future, having a full proper set of procedures for how you sterilize and sanitize and create a safe environment in the spa is really important. So we are, unfortunately, there's no certification from any of the government bodies or health officials. But what I have been doing with staff when they are able to is we're offering all different sorts of certifications. So most of my staff has done this certification on sanitization. We use Preempt, which is a hospital grade wipes. They have been offering classes for people on sterilization and sanitization. We also, I'm sure there's a lot of people in today who are Dermalogica spas. They launched this Clean Touch certified certificate, which I've encouraged a lot of our staff who are currently at home to complete. It's also just great to be able to get staff engaged with things and feeling like they're being productive, because all of our service providers are legally in a layoff position right now. They are not being paid for that, but what we've been offering is that for education classes completed during this time, that they are getting spa credits to use for themselves when we reopen. And we've also been asking all of our product partners to give credits and products for staff, and kind of encouragement and compensation for completing courses. And most of our estheticians have completed hours and hours of certifications, which has been great. So those are some things that we've tried to, when possible, keep going during the closure. I don't know if anyone has any other comments or questions regarding things that they've been doing to keep engagement with staff and clients. All of these things for me are also really important because we do have a plan that come closer to opening. It's really important that our clients understand and see how our policies and our process is internally for sterilization and keeping a safe work environment. So we want to highlight all of these certificates and bring to the forefront what we've been practicing for many years. Our internal laundry system is a hospital grade washer and dryer. Our chemicals are the same. So just being able to share that information and what it is that we use the all hospital grade disinfectant. So really kind of bringing that to the forefront, and also communicating that with all levels of staff, from housekeeping to front desk, so that there's that clear message that everyone knows exactly what our policy is and what we're doing. I think is going to be really important. But I recognize that right now it's a really frustrating time, because there is really a lack of direction and a lack of information available to people in this industry and all industries. I work closely. We have a medical director who's the chief of surgery at North York, and you know, even the doctors, plastic surgeons, they're in the same kind of boat where, you know, they're waiting weekly on some sort of update, and things are constantly changing. So, you know, just being able to do what's possible with the information you have, I think is really important.
Thank you for that, Celine. Deanne, you had a comment to make.
Thank you. The question was, what else are we doing to help keep staff engaged? And one of the things that has been extremely successful for us is the empowerment courses that we add to training. So we teach staff about their own self-esteem, which better prepares them to help their clients, and about their self-talk, about being present. And that's something that's very generic, that is not product associated at all. Although it is stimulating sales dramatically, because we're helping them to really understand from the inside out, if you will. So I am an advanced aesthetic educator, but also a certified coach and an NLP practitioner. And oh my goodness, they are so delighted to have this type of education added to their regular training. But it's something that can be a standalone, and I'd love to offer these kind of just free webinars to whomever would like to join, because I know that it helps to keep them engaged, and they can be working on themselves while they can't be working.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Sorry, go ahead, Leslie.
We've also been doing one thing that, you know, between my husband's office, he had to lay off almost 50 people. He has a design and architecture firm, and our staff, we had sent out a bunch of, from customer service to meditation, self-care, a lot of things that, you know, when you're running around busy in your day-to-day, you don't have time to do. We sent links to, you know, a dozen audiobooks, and offered to reimburse the cost for anyone who was interested in participating in those types of activities. So it would be great to kind of create a resource of these things that have been well received and share.
Thanks for that, Celine. I know we're getting close to the 1 hour mark, everyone, but we are entering the question and answer portion of today's webinar. I do hope many of you, or all of you, can stick with us through this, as there are some very poignant questions that have come up. The first of the questions, what will the spa industry look like when the quarantine is over and if social distancing is in place? To any of my panelists, would you like to chime in? Or I also open the questions, of course, to any attendees today. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think there's a number of different speculations we can make with that. I think in Canada, a lot of times we're watching what's happening in the US. And for my new location that we opened, we're a flagship for SkinCeuticals, which is owned by L'Oreal. And I know just from meetings with them, and they take a lot of their direction from the US, they're creating full lines of personal space, personal, you know, protective equipment, and have offered things from, you know, spacing cushions for lounges so that people are not too close, plexi covers for reception desks, decals for where people should be standing. You know, I'm not sure if that's going to be a permanent change, but, you know, it could be as far as that. But I think really the need to have a complete sterilization and standardization process in place is definitely going to become important in the future.
Excellent, thank you for that. The next question that we've received is, what government agency will be testing, certifying and monitoring changes? I'm not sure this is something that we can directly answer, but does anyone have any input as to what they believe might be the government agency for this?
This is Elena. Can I answer this. In Manitoba, we do have a government licensing system for estheticians, which is monitored by Apprenticeship Board, our provincial government organization. So all of the estheticians must go through provincial exam and receive actually a certification that needs to be maintained, and every 2 years they have to go through sort of a refresher of what's happening. And I always thought it was a very good tool for the spa managers and for staff themselves to maintain their knowledge and maintain their professional levels. But I also wanted to add to what Celine was saying. When it comes to professional training, as we all know, massage therapy associations always require professional training for massage therapists in order for them to keep their license. And that this is something that I've been trying to implement in our province, and there's a possibility this will happen in Manitoba, especially now. And I think now it's time for our provincial governing bodies to step into our industry and actually become more interested in our industry and create some sort of licensing system for aesthetics and cosmetology, which will upgrade everybody's standards and standards of the industry. And I just want to also comment on how you can change your operations. And I want to mention again the waterless pedicures. If anybody else wants to know how we do it and how effective and how successful this is, we've been doing it for 15 years. I would encourage everybody to reach out, and I will gladly help you, because this is a big part of our industry, and not many people will be willing to go and soak their feet, and even if it's used with the disposable linings and all of that stuff. So I think there's a chance for us to actually do something better and greater and raise our standards for good.
Excellent. Thank you, Elena. And I encourage any of our attendees, if you have any questions about any of the topics that have been raised today, or wish to speak to any of our panelists, please feel free to reach out to myself, membership@leadingspasofcanada.com, and I'd be more than happy to forward any of your questions or comments. The next question we have today is, will there be new sanitation regulations for the spa?
Well, I think that's already falling in line with what Elena was just speaking about, just in terms of developing the protocols. You know, they're going to be different from province to province. It would be great if we had a cohesive nationalized plan that we, collectively all, follow. But I don't know what the reality of that is. We have Body Safe in Toronto, which is, municipal, and then we have, our health inspectors from the province. So they already have these things outlined, and it's what we follow at our spa at the college, and of course what everybody else needs to follow as well.
Absolutely, and thanks both Elena and Kathryn for the input on that question. As with many of the healthcare providing industries, there is a lot of them, I think all of them that I can think of, which are all province-based governance. So it is important now we keep on top of what each provincial government is coming out with. I do know that Leading Spas Board is looking at reaching out to each of the provinces and trying to build further bonds and relationships with their policy builders to get on top of this now before it becomes open to the public. We will keep you informed on how we go with that. As with anything that involves the government, though, everything takes time and everything has red tape, but stand by your emails as you will be getting more information about what Leading Spas recommends as a minimum as time goes on. On that point, we've had a number of questions around this topic, so I'll try to combine them to one question. PPE requirements. Should we be wearing masks now? Was it possible to ask our clients to? And how are people looking to cover costs for PPE and cleaning?
Sorry, I was logged out there for a minute. I just reconnected. Kathryn, I'm not sure if you were following up on that. But I think moving forward, I know myself, we have already
Oh, I'm sorry, Celine, looks like we lost you again.
Additional PPE equipment for this.
I'm sorry, Celine, your connection is really broken at the moment.
Something
We
that
are having trouble hearing you.
be comfortable for all.
Can I step in, please?
Yeah, Elena, do you want to step
Yes.
in there?
Yes.
Please, Kathryn.
Yes, this is Elena. What we've been doing, I've actually had it already built in my costs, in my protocols, PPE for all my estheticians. We've been using protective masks for all of our pedicures and for some of the facials. This always been a protocol, and now even province of Manitoba looking at the specific supplies for our industry, because we were cut basically as soon as this all happened, we were completely cut off all of the medical supplies, but now they're really looking at the opening channels for our industry to get supplies on a regular basis. And there will be cost, but you need to build this from now on into your operations and see if just we look at your business plan and look at your costs, and you just have to build it in. But what we're doing, we're saving costs on the front desk operations now, since all the front desk operations going to be pretty much seamless and behind the scene. So that's a big saving right there. So there's the ways of doing it, and your local suppliers for the companies actually that doing marketing and supply with the goods for branding. So they're also changing their inventory, and they're looking at the PPE as well. And what I suggest to use the protective goggles and the PPE mask for everybody as of this time, but moving forward, keeping the disposable masks as a normal protocol, especially for estheticians.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for those comments around that. I'll finish up with this one question today, as I know that everyone's time is valuable. How can Leading Spas of Canada support this industry? I think we've touched on a couple of points there in relation to reaching out to provincial governments and sending communication to our members as to what we find out, regarding the 75% financial aid and things like that. But what are your thoughts, Kathryn, Celine, Elena? I want to open it up to you.
I think probably the one thing that stands out for me as an educator is research. I think that a lot of businesses out there really would like to see research so that benchmarks can be established for their businesses, so you know what to compare to, whether we can be conducting surveys even with our own members, so that we can get some sense of what the statistics are like here, but also to share research that I have access to in other areas, because we have those memberships internationally. So I think that can be a benefit for people.
Excellent points, Kathryn.
This is Elena. Can I just add to this quickly? I just want to make this one point, and I think it's very important. And when I say we are in this together, what I mean by, I we don't need to compete anymore. I think we need to work with each other, regardless who you are, where you work. If you work down the street from each other, we have to work together on everything right now, so we can raise the standards of our industry. So our spa goers will trust us and will go back to us. And especially for the members of the association, it just opens that another opportunity to become recognized business and on a different level and different scale. And I think it's very important that we all share our knowledge and our resources. I think we need to have an open communication, AJ, as of right now, and you can do that. You can create this open communication on our website, and we need to ask each other questions and answer each other questions openly, and implement all these new procedures across the board everywhere.
Excellent
Even
point.
the sourcing of material.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with both of you. Thank you so much. I actually would like to take this point to thank you to our panelists today, Elena, Kathryn, and Celine, for sharing their insight and experiences today. I'd also like to thank all those who shared their stories and questions from the audience. If your input can help just one other member of our industry in these difficult times, I personally count that as a win. If you aren't currently a member of your industry's association, I would like to encourage you to join today. Your voice and opinion is important and needs to be heard. We are continually working to improve industry safety and guidelines, as well as government relations, but we can't do that without your support. And as a special offer, we would like to take this opportunity to advise anyone who joins now, we will have half-yearly membership fees waived, given that we are partway through the year. If you have any questions regarding membership, regarding any of the topics covered today by any of our panelists or our attendees, or if you have any opinions or suggestions you would like to share, please feel free to contact me at membership@leadingsparsofcanada.com. We hope you enjoyed the webinar today. Please stay safe and well, and remember, you are not alone in this. We are in this together. Canada Spa Strong. Thank you all.
Thank you.